Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do a slightly different kind of TBR video in which I'm talking about 10 books that are on my life TBR. So as opposed to a normal TBR where I'm talking about books that I imminently want to get to, these are just 10 books that at some point in my life I would really like to get to. I might not even own them. In fact, I don't think I own any of the books I'm about to talk to you about today, but they are some of the big heavy hitters that every time I see them I think, oh yeah, that's a thing that I definitely should read at some point in my life. I say 10 books, though I will say some of these points are just like finish an author's entire bibliography, but I have broken it down into 10 points. I don't know if this is a series that I will keep on going, but you know, probably there are definitely going to be 10 more books that keep on cropping up again and again. I'd be very interested to know if you've read any of these books or if they're on your life TBR. Let me know what you think. So the first book on my life TBR is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This one actually came to mind for me quite recently, last year, when it had been, I believe it had been banned in certain school libraries, and just gave me a little bit of a prod of, oh yeah, that was a book I've always been meaning to read. The graphic novel in which Art Spiegelman interviews his father about his experiences during the Holocaust, famously depicting the Jewish people as mice and the Nazis as cats. I'm not a massive graphic novel reader, but it's one that has been on my radar for such a long time, pretty much since I started getting back into reading in 2014, especially because when I was really getting back into reading, this was the kind of history that was the most interesting to me. And for some reason, I've just never picked this one up, but I would really love to. I think the only part of it that is a little bit making me a little bit tentative is the fact that it is a graphic novel, and I'm kind of 50-50 on how much I enjoy them, but I think the story will just be so powerful that it will pull me through. The second point on my life TBR is that I would like to finish all of Elizabeth Gaskell's novels, and I would also really like to read her Life of Charlotte Bronte. A couple of Octobers ago I got really into Elizabeth Gaskell and was just powering through her work, but I actually haven't read anything of hers in a couple of years. Looking at the chronology of her work, I've read Cranford, Ruth, North and South, and Wives and Daughters, and in terms of her main novels I still need to read her first novel, Mary Barton, My Lady Ludlow, A Dark Knight's Work, and Sylvia's Lovers. So I'm kind of half and half there, but I really enjoy her writing style. I love her characters. I think this also came to mind because I recently went to the Elizabeth Gaskell house in Manchester. I picked up this biography of her life. This is definitely something that I want to read very soon. The next author who is on my life TBR is Christine de Pizan, who is a 14th and 15th century poet who I believe was born in Italy but was based in France, and I always see heralded as kind of like a proto-feminist. And she's somebody who I feel like I know a lot about, despite the fact that I actually haven't read anything about her. But her two most well-known works are The Book of the City of Ladies and The Treasure of the City of Ladies. The Book of the City of Ladies basically being de Pizan's big defense of women, going through famous women of history and basically being like, look, we are great. That description is how you can tell I've not read it yet. I don't know, I just feel like I would really enjoy reading her works. A recurring theme that you'll see through these is that it's a lot of big books that are on my life's TBR but I still haven't gotten round to yet. And this one is no exception. It is The Brontes by Juliet Barker, which is this massive biography of the Bronte sisters. Every single time that I go to Haworth, I clock it and I think, one day I will read you. But not right now. Speaking of the Brontes, I would also really like to finish off the last novels that I need to read to have read all of the Bronte sisters' works. For me, the two that I still have to read are both Charlotte Bronte books, Shirley and the Professor. I did try and read Shirley a few years ago and I couldn't quite get into it. I feel like I'm a little bit more primed to read it now. And the Professor, I think I've just been procrastinating because I've heard kind of more negative things about it, that it's just a bit dull. But I want to get it read. That might be a job for Victober. We'll have to wait and see. Another chunky classic that I know absolutely nothing about but is always on people's lists of favourite classics of all time, and so I'm definitely wanting to read, is Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackery. I'm amazed that I don't know anything about this because I hear so many people saying how wonderful it is. I know that there have been a few adaptations of this. I hear the name Becky Sharp a lot, but I don't know anything about her. I think this also came into my mind the past few months after the Met Gala, not the Met Gala, the Oscars, when Hugh Grant was being interviewed by Ashley Graham, and Hugh Grant made this comment about the reason that he goes is because there's all walks of life here, it's Vanity Fair. And Ashley Graham completely misunderstood what he said, and she was thinking that he was referring to the Vanity Fair after party. And I just remember that exploded the internet a little bit. And even though I was kind of nodding along like, of course, he was talking about William Makepeace Thackeray, I don't know. Why am I being a snob? I've not read the book. The seventh book on my list of things I would love to read in my life is The String of Pearls, a domestic romance, which you might not know, but I believe is the origin of the Sweeney Todd story. I think it was published in the mid-1840s. It was published serially, but this is the first instance of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. You may know, it's one of my favourite musicals, probably top 3 musicals, but I've never read the original text, so I don't know how it differs from the stage musical. I would just really like to hit this at some point in my life. Once again, Sweeney Todd coming to mind because there is currently the Broadway production with Josh Groban running on Broadway. Why does New York have to be so far away? I actually recently came across this in a shop and I didn't pick it up, and I'm kind of kicking myself about it. A big bookish bucket list goal of mine is to read all of Shakespeare's works. I'm pretty sure this is on every reader's list. And you know, I've read a good chunk of them. A few years ago, I'd kind of like restarted my Shakespeare project, wanting to go back and read them all from the beginning. But it has been a few years since I properly indulged myself and treated myself to reading or watching a new play. But what, there's about 37 plays, I want to say, and I have either read or watched Measure for Measure, Merchant of Venice, Midsummer Night's Dream, Much Ado About Nothing, Taming of the Shrew, The Tempest, Twelfth Night, Two Gentlemen of Verona, A Winter's Tale, Henry V, Henry VIII, though that was very brief, Richard II, Richard III, Antony and Cleopatra, Coriolanus, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, King Lear, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, and Titus Andronicus. So I've had some sort of interaction with about 21 of the plays, I think. If I miscounted that, I'm really sorry. But I would eventually like to get around to them all. We are ending off with 2 chunky novels. The penultimate one being A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel. You'll know that I'm a massive fan of her Wolf Hall trilogy, but that is actually the only thing that I've read by Hilary Mantel. And I think especially after her death, I'm just really wanting to read more from her. And I always hear kind of mixed things about A Place of Greater Safety, her big sprawling French Revolution novel. Some people saying that they absolutely love it, that it rivals Wolf Hall, and some being a bit disappointed by it. I think maybe because I'm a little less attached to the French Revolution and that general time period, I don't know how I will fare. I would really love to know if anybody else has read it and what they thought. But going back to the Tudors for my last book, like I say, we are ending with one big chunky book, and that is The Autobiography of Henry VIII by Margaret George, which I'm always seeing in shops and thinking, oh, do I, don't I? So this is Margaret George's fictional life of Henry VIII from his perspective, going from birth to death, and it is like 1,000 pages long. I think especially because I've heard kind of mixed things about Alison Weir's latest book, which is focusing on Henry VIII. Though I've not read that one yet, the criticism that I have heard is making me want to pick up the autobiography because I've heard nothing but good things about it. And I feel like I read quite a bit of fiction that is like surrounding Henry VIII or focusing on his wives and their perspectives, but never actually the man himself. And I feel like it must be a really tricky thing to capture that personality. And I think maybe where people struggle is the fact that he is in later life like so terrifying and so unpredictable and unwieldy. But you also have to get the charisma of this man. You have to be able to portray why he was so captivating to people, and I wonder if that's where authors struggle. But there we go, those are 10 books that are on my live TBR. Obviously these are not all of the books that I would ever like to read, but ones that pop up again and again when I think, oh yeah, that's a thing that I should get to at some point, but maybe are not immediate priorities. Do let me know if you've read any of the books that I've spoken about today. Alternatively, let me know what are the big books that you would like to get to eventually, that if you get to the end of your life and you've not read them, you're going to be disappointed with yourself. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.